Welcome to In Data We Trust, the podcast where data isn't just numbers, it's the heartbeat of global supply chains. I'm Priya Thinagar, and every week we dive deep into how data, AI, and analytics are shaping the way goods move, decisions are made, and businesses thrive. If you're passionate about where technology meets supply chains, you're in the right place. Get ready to unpack insights, hear real world stories, and meet the innovators transforming supply chains with the power of data. This is In Data We Trust. Let's get moving. Hello, how's everyone doing? My name is Priya Thinagar, and I will be your host today. Today, we're talking about AI in education, but not just the shiny tech part. We're talking about winning hearts and minds of students. Because the best tool in the world fails if people don't trust it or connect with it, we want to make sure that we're getting the right tools in the hands of educators and students so we could enhance their learning experience. When it comes to our schools, trust is everything. Exactly. You can have the most powerful AI in the world, but if teachers are wary, parents are unsure, and students don't feel it's for them, it just gathers dust. This conversation is exciting because we're going to get to the human side of AI in education. Well said, Anita. Nita, let's kick it off by a bit of a sharing of your background. Thank you, Priya. I've had the most privileged background, if I might say so. I grew up in a home full of educators. My grandfather was a professor at a local university in India. My mom taught high school students, and there were a lot of uncles and aunts that were also educators in my family. So naturally, I learned a lot of different ways of doing things, a lot of different learning styles. My interest in learning style came from my upbringing with my family of educators. After high school and college, I did a couple of years of teaching in India, and then I moved to Europe to do my PhD. I got my PhD in behavioral and instructional design, and my interest in instructional design was to bring and level set the playing field for differently minded students, for everyone to be able to learn based on their interest and based on what they really liked, and having the tools and technology to help them really do well in school. So that was my PhD, and after my PhD, I started working with teachers and with the students. To find out what technology, what learning patterns and platforms work the best, and what learning styles work the best for different students. Wow, that was wonderful. Must have been such a fun experience growing around a family of educators. I'm sure you were pampered with a lot of learning styles, and we're definitely in for a treat. Nita, let's start setting the stage. When you say hearts and mind and winning hearts and minds, how do you put it in context of AI, specifically in education? I'm sure you want to be able to get to the students' minds, get them to be curious about what you're teaching. But with tools and technology, what is the best way that you've seen it work? Priya, that is an interesting question. Think about when the school tries to introduce a totally new teaching method. If people don't feel emotionally connected to it, that speaks to the hot spot. If we can't get them to get attached to this particular teaching method, then we've lost their heart. Their heart is not in what we're asking them to do. Or if they don't have the knowledge and skills to use the tool or the technology, that falls into the mind's part. It fails no matter how brilliant the teaching method is. I think with the AI to win hearts and minds, we need to inspire our teachers and students. We need to create a curiosity. We need to show the human connection and the human benefit. Winning minds, though, is about providing practical training, the tools that are needed, and some level of confidence building. Let me explain this with a story. I was working with a school in the rural part of Spain. They wanted to roll out a simple AI writing tool. Teachers were very worried. They were thinking, what if kids just use this to cheat? Will they even learn anything? But one teacher wanted to try something different. She used the AI to give personalized feedback before essays were submitted. Students improved their drafts without feeling judged, and teachers felt empowered, not replaced. That one shift started building trust in the students. This is one way, like connecting with the students, understanding what they're coming from, giving them the tools to exceed in school and college and university. I think that is what is important. That is such a great example, and it kind of makes me think, haven't we seen this sort of a thing before with other technology? I remember in the news possibly where we had this whole advent of CD-ROMs and presentations and multimedia and all of that sort. And I remember being in India and there was this big strike going on that teachers were striking from going to school and using all these tools. They felt like the students would get distracted, that they would not pay attention, and these tools will deflect them from learning, what was important to be learned. So, yeah, absolutely. This isn't the first time schools have faced a big technology or learning challenge or a shift. In the news, it was multimedia learning. It was CD-ROMs, like you said, PowerPoint, and interactive videos. Do you know what the reaction was then? It was exactly the same as what we're seeing with AI now. You had excited early adopters, teachers who used 3D molecule animations or virtual dissections to bring lessons alive. Students loved it. And then you had the skeptics. Some thought it was a distraction, some called it a fad. If they just watch video, will they learn? Will they actually learn? And you had practical struggles, not just about the skeptics and the people that were early adopters. There were not enough computers. Projectors overheated. There were scratched CD-ROMs and teachers with no real training. Sometimes they would just press play without any integration in the lesson. But over time, multimedia stopped being special. It blended into everyday teaching. It did not replace educators, it expanded what they could do. That's the stage we're entering with AI now. So let's switch gears. So, bringing that back to today, one of the big fears is losing the human touch. How do you address that? So, I just say AI is here to extend you, not replace you. Imagine you had a super assistant who could pre-sort your assignments, suggest differentiated learning plans for mixed level classes, pull up relevant past resources instantly. That then gives you the time for the things only humans can do. Mentoring, inspiring students and inspiring others, and connections. These three are really, really important, and only humans can do that today. I'll tell you about an example. There was a teacher who was using AI to pre-grade multiple choice tests overnight. The time she saves, it was going into a 15-minute student spotlight session where kids were sharing something that they're very proud of. Without AI, these moments would not exist. She was able to use AI for the monotone and very prescriptive tasks, handed it some of her pre-grading materials, some of the lesson prep materials, and it gave her the time which was very, very precious to spend with the students. She showed them that she cares about them. She showed them that she wanted to help them succeed. That is how we win hearts and minds of the students. Well, not everyone is that early adopter. Not everyone is excited about this hype. I'm sure there are skeptics, both teachers, parents, and even sometimes students. How do you win them over? What are some techniques you've used or strategies you've used to sort of overcome and get these skeptics to buy in and come along for this journey? First, you have to listen. Listening goes a long way. And listening not just in the educational system, I think this is a universal truth. Resistance comes from the fear of losing control or not understanding the text. So, what you need to do is to help folks get over the fear of losing control. After that, you have to start small. For teachers, for example, you can show them how I can prep quiz questions in their voice, in their tone, in their style. For parents, showing them their students' reading progress, how well the student is doing, and even recommending what are some things for them to read next. What are some titles that they could go after? How to expand that reading, giving them some sort of a tool that can help them track the student would be super helpful. Don't you think? We did an experiment one time at our college. We picked a few skeptics, and one of them agreed they would try just one lesson just to show us that it does not work. That was their mindset coming in to do the experiment. Experimentation is a great way to get teams and teachers to learn new tech. So this teacher used AI and created a story based game that students loved. He adopted these games for the rest of the year. He got super hooked onto it, where he felt like the students were picking up all of these subjects very easily because he was gamifying them. This is how you win hearts. One safe, useful win at a time. And students ever since have loved the gamification because it helps them play and compete with their friends, but at the same time, they're learning very interesting concepts. Wow, that is phenomenal. Using gamification, I definitely see this and draw some parallels to supply chain, where in the warehouse, it was known that if you gamified work for the worker that was picking or packing in the warehouse that their productivity levels really went high up. And I was at an Amazon tour just last week and saw that they had, a display where the associate could actually play games either against the computer as they were picking and packing or with other employees so they could compete with others. And we were told that they gained some points that they could use for things from like the Amazon store and other areas. So I think gamification definitely is very key to keeping students and teachers engaged, as well as getting a bit of that back and forth collaboration that you spoke about. Switching, so if you are a listener listening right now, here's something for you to think about. What's one task in learning or teaching you wish you could automate so you could focus more on the human side of things? It could be grading, it could be lesson prep, it could even be scheduling parent teacher meetings. Neeta, any closing thoughts from you? Oh, that question that you just posed to the listeners cuts to the heart of adoption. When someone sees AI remove a draining task and give them back time for connection, they stop fearing it and start asking, what else can it do? I was reading something the other day that said if you remove somebody's work, then I think they get upset about it. But if you speak with them and if you see a task that they're doing that is not interesting to them, that is draining and some energy from them, and you automate that particular task, it then gives them time to do the things that have purpose, that have meaning, and that they enjoy the most. So, as companies are looking to use AI in building new products and new solutions, I would ask them to think about the things that drain energy for the teachers and the students if they're working on an ed tech product and really help accelerate the build out, even partnering with some universities so that can give more connection time for the student and the teacher. And I think when the student and the teacher are able to spend time together to collaborate, we're going to see some expanded growth of how our students are learning, how excited they are about education and making a meaningful impact to society. Priya, thank you for having me on this podcast. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you. Thank you, Neeta. The lesson from both the multimedia revolution and today's AI wave is if you start small, focus on trust, and keep the human element front and center, the technology becomes just another tool in the toolbox. Thank you for listening. Talk to you soon. You've been listening to In Data We Trust, the voice of a world where precision, speed, and insight define who wins. Every decision, every movement, every success starts with a hidden truth in the data. If you find something powerful today, subscribe, share, and join us as we decode the future of supply chains. Until next time, trust the data and keep innovating.